What's up, everybody, and welcome to The Horror Within Me, a podcast dedicated to the world of horror. I am your host, Eric, and each week I'm going to rate and review a new movie or TV show that falls within the horror genre. Now, this is a show for horror fans, hosted by a horror fan, who's just here to share my opinions and experiences with my fellow horror friends in hopes that you may gain something new to watch or not watch, and really just talk about all things related to this beautifully dark and spooky world that we call horror. So if this sounds like a show for you, stick around, we're going to have a lot of fun. So let's get started. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new Spooky Sunday episode of The Horror Within Me. I'm your host, Eric, and this is a podcast where I do horror movie reviews and interviews. And this week's horror movie review is going to be on the 2023 possession movie, The Pope's Exorcist. I think this is the first episode that I've done a possession exorcism movie. And I would have thought it would have been the original Exorcist movie, but nope, here we are. It's The Pope's Exorcist. That's what we're doing. It's a fun movie. It's going to be a fun episode. I think I found some good reviews, and you can only imagine if it's got to do with the Pope and the exorcisms and all that stuff. The kind of negative reviews that I had to sift through for this week's episode. It was insane. But before we jump into the episode, let me see. Is there any horror-related news that I can think of? We're halfway through September. I think next week, I believe, is when Saw X comes out. I know I should know this more firmly, but I don't. I would love to go to the movies to see it. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but if I do, definitely going to make an episode about it. But if I don't, it'll have to wait for when it becomes streaming. What else is going on in the horror movie world? The Exorcist is coming out on, I think, a week early, October 6th instead of the 13th, because of the Taylor Swift Eras Tour movie that is taken over Friday the 13th. I feel so like, I love Taylor Swift. I'm sure it's going to be I heard the tour was amazing, but like, she could have took October 6th and left The Exorcist for October 13th. It's Friday the 13th. But Blumhouse made a smart move, obviously, moving The Exorcist, because you don't want to open on the same day as the Eras Tour for Taylor Swift. It will just, like, everyone knows Taylor Swift is, like, dominating the fucking world. Didn't she cause, like, a small earthquake on the West Coast? Like, it's just, it was a smart move on Blumhouse. I don't think it was a smart move for the team of Taylor Swift to pick that day. That's my little rant. Fright Rags, I got my 2 Fright Rags shirts in the mail the other day. I have the 35th anniversary, which I'm wearing. I don't know if you can kind of see if you're watching, of A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. This one is the pizza box with Rick from that scene. And then I also got the Monster Squad shirt, which I'm super excited about. So go check out Fright Rags. I don't get paid to promote anyone. This is just me as a fan of different things. And, my husband and I started watching What We Do in the Shadows, which is on FX, and it's like a horror comedy mockumentary kind of thing. It reminds me of The Office, but with vampires. Fucking hilarious. There's 5 seasons currently out. We're almost just on season 4 now, because the episodes are like 25 minutes each, and there are only 10 episodes a season, so you can get through it pretty fast. And it's just it's an amazing show. Highly, highly recommend if you've never seen it. This is a mini review. Definitely go watch it. And I finished Black Mirror, 6 seasons. Again, loved it. There are some fucking bizarre ones. I made a TikTok about that with my top 5. So if you're curious about that, go on over to the TikTok page to see what those were. And I'm finishing up Cabinet of Curiosities, because I started that last year and never finished it. So a lot of spooky things going on. I love the spooky shit. It's like I said, we're halfway through September. We're almost in October. Not that it matters for me, but I feel like there's a difference in like just horror-related stuff, which is like in my office is all year long, and then the Halloween aspect of it just intensifies everything, and I love seeing that everywhere I go. Got my first bag of my Don't Judge Me mixed candy corns with like the pumpkins. Oh, they're my favorite. People that hate on people that hate candy corn need to find something better to do with their lives. It's like a personality. If they like think it's amazing to say how much they hate candy corn and people shouldn't like it. Same thing with Peeps. Get the fuck out of here. I love Peeps and I love candy corn and I love Halloween. If you don't like it, don't like it. Whatever. There was no new episode last week. Work has been crazy as hell. In a good way, but it's just been really busy. at both of my jobs, and I was getting over being sick, so just a mess. But that's a little bit of update on me, my little self rant. And now we're going to jump in to the content of the episode. So if this is your first time listening, before the start of every episode, we do what's called terrifying trivia question, which is something that I come up with usually that is directly related to the movie or show that we are reviewing. So it is time for this week's terrifying trivia question. This week's terrifying trivia question is, what is the name of the demon in the Pope's Exorcist? Stick around to the end of the show to get the answer. Now, if you've never seen the Pope's Exorcist, it's still a fun question. You can try to think of anything, or you can look up different demon names. Don't look up my goodness, I'm coughing and everything. Don't look up the Pope Exorcist demon, but just look up different demon names. That'd be kind of fun. Now, if you've been listening to the show for a while, and again, if you're new, this is the part that I dread, is going over who stars in the movie, because for some reason I can't pronounce anyone's freaking name, and this week's episode is going to be painful. So I want to apologize to the actors and creators of everyone that is involved in this movie. I am terrible at the names. I've did my disclaimer. I don't want to hear about it. All right. The synopsis for The Pope's Exorcist is as follows. Follow Gabriel Amort, the Vatican's leading exorcist, as he investigates the possession of a child and uncovers a conspiracy the Vatican has tried to keep secret. Okay. The synopsis is correct from the movie, but I feel like we're no strangers to the Vatican trying to keep things secret within there. You know what I'm saying? Could have been something a little bit different. I feel like it's a little this has nothing to do with that. I can tell you that right now. It has nothing to do with that, but it's just it could have been a better synopsis. I need a sip of coffee before we get into this. My throat is tickling. All right. The movie stars Russell Crowe as Father Gabriel Amort, Daniel Zavato as Father Ezekiel, Alex Esso as Julia, Peter DeSouza, Honey, I can't say it, there it is, as Henry, and Laurel Marsden as Amy. It was released April 5th of 2023, directed by Julius Avery, produced by Doug Belgrad, Michael Patrick Kazmarek, and Jeff Katz, written by Michael Petroni, Evan, here we go, ready? I'm going to try it out. Spilatopoulos. Okay, these people are fucking with me on purpose. Has a rating of R. It's a runtime of 1 hour and 43 minutes. Falls under the horror and thriller genre. I could not find a tagline for this movie, and its IMDb rating is a 6.1 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter of 48% and an audience score of 81%. Those are two very different ratings. We have the tomato meter at 48% and an audience score of 81%. So clearly the audience that have rated it enjoyed the movie a lot more than actual film critics. No shocker. I don't know what they're looking for in certain horror movies, but it is what it is. So let's back up a little bit. Russell fucking Crowe is in this movie, and everyone loves Russell Crowe. I didn't know this going into this, but his character of Father Gabriel Amort is a real person. He was actually the Vatican's the Pope's exorcist in real life. He wrote books. This was based off one of the books, but it doesn't say based on a true story, which is what is also kind of weird to me, because it's a real person and it's based off a book, but I guess it's still considered fiction. It's I didn't look into why that is, but I find that kind of curious, right? Because a lot of movies will say based on true events or things like that, and this has none of that. There's no disclaimer about that at all. It does say at the end of the movie what he's gone on to do, but it's still just so strange to me. Sorry for the silence. My coffee is really good. It's early while I'm recording. I got a busy day. Anyway, the Other actors, I haven't seen them in anything else, but they all did a really good job, I think, for what they were trying to prove. So, without further ado, let's move on to the next part of the show, which is the top three best and worst reviews for The Pope's Exorcist on IMDb. So, we're going to do the top three best reviews first. Coming in first is titled Impeccable. This was written in April of 2023, so right after the movie was released. And the review is, finally a good scary movie to save 2023. Russell always being one of the best. I love when the movie brings us lines to reflect and, well, just perfect. Good story construction, brought me to tears a few times, so close to reality in some points, and a good makeup crew. But again, Russell carried the movie on his shoulders and did not disappoint. Good scenarios, good clothes, script is impeccable, and I love how the interactions of the church are showed in the movie in a way closer to reality. Always loved a good exorcism movie, and this one did not disappoint me a single minute. I'm leaving the theater with happiness. Did they write this in the theater? Can you imagine? Oh my god, I'm done the movie. I gotta get on IMDb right fucking now and write a review. This person loved this movie. 10 out of 10 review. Oh my god, I apologize for this coughing today. 10 out of 10 review. It's just, it was a good thing. I have no idea why they were brought to tears, though. Very few horror movies get me to tears, especially like possession movies. But maybe this person, like, it was like the mother child and bond. I don't know, but that part I just was like, why brought to tears? But I think it was a good exorcism movie. Like, I do agree with that. There's so much that you can do after The Exorcist that isn't like going to be a ripoff of The Exorcist or just something far fetched. But this one I think did okay. I'll give it that. We're going on to the next review. It's titled Fantastic Story. This was written in May of 2023. Based on the events of Father Gabriel Amort, the story was very well done. Russell Crowe, one of the finest actors, is incredible in the role. If you're looking for Hollywood horror gore, this isn't the movie. This carries more suspense than horror gore, but more focused on the story and great acting. The lines, script were... Hold on, this is a weird typo. The lines and script were given great detail and delivery. Nothing campy about this movie, but well worth it. Now, hopefully there will be sequels, as fans of the movie would most likely want to know more about Father Amorth and the challenges he has faced. As for the set design, was perfect. They put a lot of effort into this movie, and it paid off. Sorry, like some of these typos are just so terrible that I get lost stumbling over it. So let me see. This review, not bad. I don't know if anyone that was like, let me go see The Pope's Exorcist was looking for Hollywood horror gore. Because for me, most possession movies are based on like the premise of not that, but more of the leading up to the scares of the possession. Not so much gore. Like the only thing I can think of with gore would be like the original Exorcist with like the green vomit and stuff. But even that, like that was even like the only part. Like it's not so much. Exorcism movies don't have a lot of gore, in my opinion, that I have seen. So I don't know who would go into this looking for Hollywood horror gore. But other than that, I agree with this person's review. It did have really good acting. They did focus on the story, and I think that the script and the lines were done well. Again, nothing campy about this movie, but it wasn't supposed to be. It's not a parody. It wasn't a horror comedy. There's no comedy about it, so there wouldn't be anything campy about it. It's not it's a serious movie. So I don't know who would go into that. Maybe this person wasn't sure what they were getting into, but they liked it anyway. Let's move on to the last best review for The Pope's Exorcist on IMDb. This one is titled Mind-Blowing and Intense! 3 exclamation points. Best devil movie ever made! 2 exclamation points. This reviewer is setting us up for a good review, right? We're getting set up. Here we go. I cannot, not in all caps, remember a time I saw a horror movie that was so intense and horrifying. The little boy deserves to go down in history in all caps again, for beating Linda Blair's performance in The Exorcist, which I thought was impossible. I've been waiting for decades upon decades for a horror movie that puts me on the edge of my seat, with shoulders so tense to my ears and nightmares to come afterwards. I felt like a kid again that wanted to tuck my feet up because I thought something was going to grab my feet while I was in the theater watching it. Please make a sequel as good as this one. It needs to keep going like The Conjurings. Russell, thank you for still being an A-list actor, and thanks to the director and whole cast for, and this is the rest of this is all caps, amazing film that will go down in history as pure terror. 3 exclamation points. I love when people use all caps to like get their points across. This person clearly sets this movie up for you. If you have never seen The Pope's Exorcist and this is the only review you see about it, you're going to go in there, and I'm going to be very honest with you right now, probably be disappointed. The movie is good. This review hypes it up too much. You know when something is hyped too much that it's impossible to actually achieve that? That's what this review does. This person obviously felt that way about it, which is fine. I don't agree that it has beaten The Exorcist. I don't think it has beaten Linda Blair's performance in The Exorcist. I really think this reviewer has set this movie up for a mediocre experience for someone who has only heard of this review going into the movie. So if you've only listened to this review, please listen to the other reviews, because again, my job here is to give you 2 sides to the stories, people that loved it and people that really, really hated it, and then how I fall into it. And then from there, you make your decision. But if this is the only review you hear, you're going to go and watch this movie, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? Because I just don't agree. But that concludes the top 3 best reviews for The Pope's Exorcist. It's time to go on to my personal favorite, which is always the top 3 worst reviews on IMDb. First one is titled, entertaining movie until it becomes immoral. And then in parentheses, it says, not what you think. And it says, warning, spoilers. It was written in April of 2023. In all caps, it says, spoiler. Russell Crowe is fun, and the movie moves along quite nicely. There's a mystery that must be solved, too. Wonderful special effects and a game cast round out what should have been a fun, occasionally scary, in parentheses it says, whatever that means, movie. Unfortunately, ... Here we go. Ready? In 2 different scenes, Father Exorcist discovers truths, in quotation marks, about the past of the Catholic Church regarding their most infamous transgressions, the Spanish Inquisition, and the more recent, decades-long sexual abuse scandal. And what is the film's conclusion, you ask? That the devil did it all, not humans, the devil. This film literally vomited all over everyone who ever suffered at the hands of the Catholic Church. Good going. Clearly, this person is not a fan of the Catholic Church. Not here to argue people's views. We all have our own and are entitled to our own views. I did not get anything from this movie that had to do with the decades-long sexual abuse scandals within the Catholic Church. I can tell you that right now. And as for the Spanish Inquisition, it's not really my history. It's never been my thing, so I don't really know anything much about that either. And don't judge me. I'll learn about it. Anyway, that one sentence, I don't understand what it means. A game cast round out what should have been a fun, occasionally scary, whatever that means, movie. What do you mean, whatever that means, scary? It's scary means what it means. Look, you don't know the definition of scary? And like, also, I feel like I don't, like, of course the movie is going to blame the devil. It's about the Vatican and good versus evil. They're not going to make this movie and then shit on the Catholic Church when it's about a movie about the Catholic Church. Like, it's not a movie. It's about an exorcism. It's about the devil. Of course, they're going to blame evil because it's evil things that are being done. They're going to blame evil. That makes sense. And then in this like realm of thinking, if I'm correct, people blame the evil that the devil made me do it. because the devil's evil and can get into us, and that we must find God and pray for salvation and things like that. But it's never God or good that, allows these terrible things. It's always devil stuff. So I don't know why you're shocked by this or why you're upset. Moving on. The second worst review is titled, I love the title. Ready? Absolute Trash. This was written in July of 2023. I actually can't believe Russell Crowe would have accepted a role like this. After seeing an interview with him, how he dived deep into the role and really studied the real, in quotations, Pope's Exorcist, I was expecting something a bit more, should I say, realistic, again in quotations. But this is absolute non-believable trash, with every cliche you would expect from a B, in quotation marks, grade horror movie. Okay, this person's quotation marks is getting a little out of fucking hand now. How anyone could rate this as high as some of the reviews on here is beyond me. Did we watch the same film? There is an hour and a half or so of my life I'll never get back. There we go. Take a shot. Seriously, if you are wanting to sit down and watch a good movie, then this is not it. 3 exclamation points. Okay. What the fuck? Why do you mean I can't believe Russell Crowe would have accepted a role like this? Well, I don't know. Like, I don't pay enough attention to like all the stuff he's been in. Like, but I wasn't he in like the fucking like Gladiator movies, and like he was in that one movie with like the road rage and stuff. Like, he's an actor. Let him do what he wants to do. Like, what do you mean? He studied the real, in quotations, and I thought it was to be a bit more realistic. Have you experienced an exorcism in your life? Have you witnessed one? Were you a part of one? What? How would you know? Like, how would you know what was realistic? How do we know that that's not realistic? How do we know that that's not what really happens? Are there like what? Where are you getting realistic from? I don't know what you thought. And then the next line where he was like, every cliche you would expect from a B, in quotations, grade horror movie. You don't have to put B in quotations. Everyone knows what a B rated horror movie, not B grade. B rated. B grade, whatever. I don't think it was any of all the cliches. I don't think it was all the cliches at all. I think that there's only so much you can do with an exorcism and a possession. There's literal reasons that there's a lot of the stuff in there of the cliches, because a lot of that is written into what the possessions and demons are like. If somebody was going to be possessed, there are characteristics and traits and signs and symptoms that people look out for that you have to include when you're making a possession movie. So yes, it may seem like a cliche, but also that's a part of, they have to include certain things. Anyway, my favorite line is, that's an hour and a half or so of my life I'll never get back. Why do people still write this shit? This is written a couple months ago, so this is like still fucking fresh that people are still putting in these bad reviews. Nobody gives a fuck. Like, you took a risk. Like, what do you mean you're never gonna get it back? There's things you're never gonna get back. Who gives a fuck? The drinking game, guys. Even if you don't drink alcohol, take a sip or whatever the fuck it is. Every time you hear that from one of my reviews, I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee and get into the final worst review for The Pope's Exorcist on IMDb. It's titled, I can't believe Crowe participated in this! Exclamation point. Now, before we get into this, people are fucking pissed off that Russell Crowe participated in this movie. The ones that are mad. And here's my thing. I think that the people that are writing the bad reviews that are upset that Russell Crowe did this movie aren't really big horror fans. They're really big Russell Crowe fans, so they just wanted to go and see him, and they had no idea I don't know how they didn't know what they were getting into. But here's the review. I am a very astute movie fan. From horror to Marvel, I've seen them all. The characters have no depth. No time is spent on developing the characters, so you really don't care what happens to them. The special effects are just bad, man. I mean bad. The shaking bed, lights flickering, the possessed individuals, and the story itself, it's all bad. It looks so fake. I mean, it is fake anyway, but you're looking at a movie. It's supposed to make you believe that it could be possible. I actually couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that Russell Crowe, the Academy Award-winning gladiator man himself, took part in this garbage. He must be low on moolah or something. The Exorcist, the original, is still number one till this day. You could even go with a good werewolf movie such as The Howling, only the first one, of course. Of course, of course. Or The American Werewolf in London. All of my recommendations are a little old, but they haven't made anything close to those movies yet. I could go in depth and explain why, but I'll save that for another time. If you haven't seen this movie yet, go ahead, watch it, but you have been warned. This Okay, I'm an astute movie fan. Oh, fancy. Put your pinky out when you take a sip of your tea. From horror to Marvel. Okay, me too. The characters had depth. There was a backstory. There was a development. Like, I understood what was happening, and I cared what happened to them. The effects were not bad at all. Like, the shaking bed is not a bad effect. And lights flickering, it's a part of what's going on. Like, it's supposed to be doing that. It's not bad effects. Like, I don't know what you think bad effects are, what you're looking for. Also, you hold on. You named movies from the fucking 80s whose effects were practical and not the what we could do today. I'm not shitting on these movies because they're great, but my point is, nowhere near those kinds of effects. It definitely has today's technology in it. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I think you just didn't like it, and here we go. The Academy Award. How could the Academy Award winning Russell Crowe, the gladiator himself, do this garbage? Oh my god. I don't know what the fuck you expect. Um, he's low on moolah. Okay, so even if he works to get paid. Maybe he was interested in the story. He was interested in being in the movie, but also he wants to get paid. Nobody's doing everything without getting paid. I'm sure you don't fucking work because you don't need money. Like, who the fuck isn't wanting money? Anyway, The Exorcist is still the number one. Okay, that's fine. But then I don't understand why you why you transitioned into going into. You could definitely just watch a good werewolf movie instead. What? A good werewolf movie? That has nothing to do with exorcisms or possessions. Like, why would we just decide to go watch a good werewolf movie? Like, The Exorcist is still number one. But you know what? Instead of any of the Exorcist movies, you can go with a good Disney movie instead. I recommend The Little Mermaid or Sleeping Beauty. Like, that's what you sound like. Only the first Little Mermaid, of course. Like, The Little Mermaid 2 with her daughter is trash. Like, that's what you sound like. I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. And then, my favorite part of this review is I could go I can go in depth and explain why, but I'll save it for another time. What other time? Who are you? When are you gonna go back and explain why you should watch these movies instead of The Pope's Exorcist? Do you have a podcast? Do you have a blog? Are you just talking on social media? Like, where can we find you to go into other time? When's the other time? This is the time. You're writing about it. Now is the time to do it. Now we have to wait and look for you for the rest of the other time. I don't understand what the fuck that was about. Weird. But that concludes this week's top 3 best and worst reviews for The Pope's Exorcist on IMDb. Let me scroll down on my little notes here. It's time to figure out what I liked the most about The Pope's Exorcist. And thinking about The Pope's Exorcist, what did I like the most? I really like the character of Henry, who is the little boy that gets possessed in the movie. I think he did a really, really good job at portraying a possessed individual, child. Like, he did good. Like, he was how Linda Blair you expect, but it was believable. It was scary. It was eerie. He looked horrible. Like, they did a really good job. I really liked his character. I thought it was really well done. What I liked the least about The Pope's Exorcist. Now, this is a little bit of a spoiler. Not too much, but what I like the least is at the end of the movie with the weird kind of spirits that they're fighting. Like, that to me was like, what? Like, in the other possession movies, you never really see entity, I would say, of what the demons are. It's just like, you can't see them. They possess someone, and then they are unpossessed when the person dies, but they go away. Like, this was like, that was a little much for me. It turned into something different, and I was like, this just is like, this just got super fucking weird. That, for me, that's what I liked the least. So now that we're talking about spirits and demons and them fighting, it's time to answer this week's terrifying trivia question. So we're going to recap. The terrifying trivia question was, what is the name of the demon in the Pope's Exorcist? And the answer is Asmodeus. And that demon is the Prince of Demons and Hell. I looked it up, not just from the movie, just like in, the folktale or whatever, folklore or whatever you want to call it. His name is Asmodeus. Now, moving on to another section, which is short and sweet, is the number of kills in the Pope's Exorcist. And I had to rack my brain. I did a little research. I tried to look back through memory on the movie itself, and all I could come up with was there was one kill in the Pope's Exorcist, and it is, spoiler alert, the girl who Father Amorth did not help, and then she committed suicide. I can't think of anyone else in the movie that actually was killed. But anyway, we have reached the point in the show where it is time, boom, 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 drum roll, everybody, for my final rating and review for the Pope's Exorcist. This week's review, or this week's rating item, is going to be Bibles. Yay. And I give the Pope's Exorcist an 8 out of 10 Bibles. And here is my final review. What makes the Pope's Exorcist stand out from movies like The Exorcist or The Exorcism of Emily Rose? Aside from the main character of Father Amorth being a real person, the Pope's Exorcist isn't just about a child being possessed. It is about a demon with a specific evil plan. The movie's atmosphere is dark and terrifying. The cast does an amazing job, especially Crowe and Faye Honey. And the story is interesting enough to keep you engaged. If you're looking for a good possession movie, add this to your list. You can now watch The Pope's Exorcist streaming on Netflix. That concludes this week's episode of The Horror Within Me. Thank you so much for sitting around and joining me this week. Enjoy spooky season. Get your pumpkin spice lattes, your apple crisps, or whatever it is that you do. And join me on another episode next time. Stay spooky, everybody. Thanks again for joining me on this week's episode of The Horror Within Me. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review wherever you listen to your podcast. And for even more Horror Within Me content, visit my link tree at linktr.ee/Horror Within Me for links to the website, my Patreon, and all of my social channels to stay up to date on all the spooky stuff that we're doing. So be safe, and until next time, stay spooky.